All right. Hello. Welcome. Can you say something? Welcome to adult education. You guys are welcome to grab your snack and your drink and then come and take a seat. All right. Liza is going to be teaching adult ed this morning. So Liza's going to be teaching us about the need to take naps. Okay. No, I really just wanted to introduce my husband, Will Anderson Beck, who's going to be teaching this morning, and then I'm going to scoot. But Will is a filmmaker, and he's going to tell you more about what particular type of film he focuses on. But I'm really excited for you guys to get to hear from him and to see some of his work. And just I'll be watching from online. But I would love to open us in a word of prayer, and then I'll hand it over to him. God, what a gift it is to worship together and then to come together and to learn, to explore the depths and height and length of your love and the ways that you manifest yourself in our world, and especially through the arts, through these creative mediums. God, I pray this morning that you would speak through Will, that you would speak through his work, that the conversation would be rich, that your Holy Spirit would be present, that we would be drawn deeper into the wonder and mystery of who you are. Oh, yes. We pray all of these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Without further ado, my amazing husband, Will Anderson Beck.
Thank you. Hello. Good morning. This is all new for me. I am behind the camera. This is in front of the camera. So thanks for bearing with me. This morning I want to talk about film and theology. And this is something that has evolved over my own career as a filmmaker, figuring out how my faith integrates into the work I get to do every day. So let's just show the first slide. Jim is our remote. This is some behind the scenes pics this week of me on set working on my new film. Just kidding. This is when I was like in middle school and rocked a mushroom cut and had a Sony camcorder around my neck all the time. But just showing this to say that from a young age, whether it was photography or videography, I was a very curious person. I have an older brother, Scott, who's on my right. That's my dad. My mom's taking the picture. And being the younger brother, I learned to observe and listen. I wasn't the loudest person in my house. And so my parents thought I was quite quiet. And I think that just, spurred me to be more curious and to listen and to try to understand people. And the camera became my tool for exploring my curiosity. And so to this day, I love finding what drives people and sharing those stories. And I think that is how God has wired me. So without further ado, I want to play the first video. We are now in Schulte Theater. So welcome. This is the video that told me that I wanted to make documentary work.
We're going to go back here.
My hair is falling out though, so I don't know if you have.
We have. Oh yes, we're required.
It's okay, Lori. It's not a big deal. It's not about us. It's about you.
We'll have to play with this.
I don't think I'm gonna wear that. Just wait.
Now, what
This
is
doesn't
it?
even look like me.
Does it look like you see both?
Oh, Poopy. It's okay.
Okay, we handle those things. Hold on.
Okay, she doesn't like it. You want to take it off?
It just doesn't look like me.
Okay, well let's take it off. Do you want me to take it off, too?
She she likes over there in one of the short-haired styles. Terry's an actual
I am Laura Bush. Don't scream in her face.
James, you come, you stand in front.
Let me have that peanut butter. I'll eat it.
Yeah, I think I will.
Will and David, okay?
Mommy.
You are. Nicely. No, put your hands down.
Okay, he's gonna. Hold him back! What is that? What is it?
What is it? They're both like.
And then he comes out.
Can you cover me up? Perfect. Thank you. Casey, say something. Can you see it? Oh, you trying to point it down? Right? Oh, that's TT. Who's that?
And that's me.
That's you? It does look like you, but who is it?
Mommy?
It's Mommy.
Too much. Oh, it vibrates. No wonder kids cry. Oh, Taylor, you're gonna have to help guide
Oh,
us.
Gino, come on. James, you're doing awesome.
Darker.
Come
Just
on.
don't get my ear, okay? Oh, that's scary. You guys are gonna take my eyeball out.
I want to do it too.
Okay, you can do it next. Laura, you actually look cute with a bald head.
What do you think, James? Are you okay? You don't like it? What's wrong?
Put it against Mommy's head.
James, you're doing great.
And you just keep
Go, Mommy.
It's like, go, mommy. Go, mommy.
Go, Mommy. Go, Mom. Go, Mommy. Go, Mom. Go, Mommy. Go, Mommy.
Go get the picture with mommy.
Why are you sad?
I have to cut Mom's hair.
You know what? I'm sad too.
It's okay, Bugs. Remember, it'll grow back. James, remember? It'll grow back, right?
Does her hair gonna grow back?
It's okay, Buggy, that you're sad, though, okay?
That's good that you're sad because that means you have emotions. That means you love Mom.
Thanks for telling Mommy you're sad.
Go, Mommy. Go.
You have to love your face.
Give him your...
I'm blowing it.
No, I don't think they
Do what you need to do to take this off.
can. No, it smells kind of good. Will you tell me my
I was looking at that to see if she's gonna add.
I don't want to. I would like to do as much as we can.
But if it's just her reaction.
But if it's just for nausea,
I'm not yet started chemo.
not right now. Like everything now, I'm completely normal.
And 25 milliliters of Benadryl, she said. Hopefully it's in
She's got her glasses on today.
there. Then not.
The hook.
Let
Yeah, I mean, I'm all dramatic.
me see that wedding ring.
What?
I'm retired now.
Well, I think yeah,
That's
the
the
finish all hit me. Are you sure there's no cars coming?
There might be a couple.
Are you gonna chase after us?
Of course.
Okay.
Get on the phone. Get in there.
James, smile at Mom.
Can you hang on to Mommy's leg or arm? Yeah. Mommy, tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Are you filming?
Yes. Are you sure there's not a car?
Thank you. So my question to you all is, what were some of the things you felt watching Lori's story? You could just call it out. Very sad. Beautiful. Yeah. Family experience. Yeah. Yeah. She wasn't alone. She was with her family. Control.
Her shaving her head, taking doing the process with the family.
Yeah. Taking initiative. All those things. I think watching it back, it definitely was such a raw and real story. And stories, I think, have the power to really move us deeply and affect us. And I'm biased, but I definitely think visual storytelling can do that on a different level. In the next slide, I just want to read a quote from the Bible Project, which is a great resource if you haven't heard of it. 1/3 of Jesus' teaching was done through the art of storytelling. Modern day storytelling is a method that might provoke more questions than answers. The story becomes a conversation starter, not a conversation finisher. So as we knew, Jesus told lots of stories. They were impactful for many reasons. I mean, we're still talking about them today. And I think, like Lori's story, it's very human. Stories are about longing and loss on every level. And I think when we see another human and their life up close, intimately like that, it stirs something within us that I think God speaks to, and Jesus certainly spoke to. And that's why we still, to this day, are connecting with his stories. Jesus also used stories to challenge his audiences and assumptions about the world. And that was a way to invite them into God's kingdom, the truer story of our world. And I think stories have a way of connecting one another and to God. So the film we just watched was the one that motivated my business partner and I, David. When I'm going to say we in the future, because David and I have been making films for 14 years together. And I often just talk about us as a unit. So apologies if it gets confusing, but we left that day with Lori. We showed up to that job. This was the first job we were ever hired to do as filmmakers. The client actually said, "Can you send a contract over? Let's get the ball rolling. Can't wait to have you guys do this." And we're like, "What's a contract?" Like, did not know what we were doing. I bought David a book for his birthday that year, How to Start a Business for Dummies. So that's where we were at. We had just graduated college a few years earlier. And I think driving home, or when we showed up to Duke, we were told, "Hey, can you guys help tell this story about Lori? She's 31 years old. She's a mother, and she just got diagnosed with breast cancer. And she's really open to sharing her story." And we didn't know what the heck we were doing. We knew how to use cameras. We knew how to listen. And so we did that. And I think what we realized quickly is that trust needed to be built first and foremost in order to listen and to be invited into their lives. So Lori actually invited us over after we had a couple early conversations. Before we put a camera in front of her face, we just asked how she was doing. She said, "I'm about to go try on wigs for the first time. Do you guys want to come and film?" We're like, "Sure." And she broke down in tears. Like, the power to be capturing that from a bird's eye view, fly on the wall, was incredible. It was doing something within us, and we didn't quite know what that was until we had left for the day. And later she's like, "You want to come over and have beer, and we're going to shave my hair off with my kids?" We're like, "Sure, this feels great, and this feels hard and sad and beautiful and messy." And I think I give a lot of credit to her family for trusting us and bringing us in, because it just allowed us to capture, I think, such a raw story. And that day when we drove home, I think it had been raining and the clouds were kind of parting, and the sun just like shone through our windshield. And we kind of looked at each other and we said, if we can figure out a way to make these stories about real people and their lives, let's do it. Like, this is our future if we can make it happen. So needless to say, next slide, we created our business called Woodwalk. And the next slide will show you just some pictures from different shoots we've been able to do. We've been able to travel around and meet all kinds of people and tell their stories to this day. We're still in business, and we absolutely love getting to do what we do. And I feel like it's a ministry of my own. It's funny when people meet Lindsay and I, especially in LA, you have a pastor and a filmmaker. Obviously, Lindsay has a very direct ministry, but I think over time I've realized, okay, I've got a ministry of my own. And in many ways, I get invited into people's homes and they get to open up to me in ways that you don't necessarily open up to your family members. You don't necessarily open up to friends, because I'm a neutral, interested, curious party. And the power of that is incredible, and I don't take it lightly. And so navigating that has taught me a lot about my faith and who God is. The next slide will show you a loose mission statement that's been on our website since we began, but we connect with people by showing them stories that have a beating heart. And so to us, storytelling is humanizing, and it really, the word that I always come back to is it's dignifying. I am filled of God's wonder and light when I meet people and I get to talk with them unboundaried for an hour or so, and I realize, oh my gosh, like God is so alive and well. Whether you identify as a Christian or not, I can see how he's working through you just by getting to ask you questions and to hear you talk about what is stirring in you in your own life. So I'm going to show you the next video, and then we'll have some follow-up discussion after that.
We were raised very simple, like simple people. We don't try to be simple people. That's what we are. Our kids know the stories, but it's not the same. You can't feel that what you feel when you are the immigrant that's coming in. It's not the same.
You're talking about an immigrant family that's come to the United States and done something remarkable.
They tell me that they have been in line for 4 hours.
Have you ever seen people get so excited about a bakery in their life?
Yelp recently named Porto's the #1 place to eat in the country.
It's the quintessential American story, right? It says it can happen here.
Immigrants are what made this country what it is, and they've been coming always, and they will still come. What we offer them is hope. I wake up every day, and sometimes, I don't know if it's Monday or Wednesday, but I know where I'm going. To know you're going to a place you belong. It's home. Home away from home.
It is a little odd that just seeing the logo at the end, but it is true. Bank of America hired us to do this job about a family that owned this beloved bakery, still thriving to this day in LA, that's owned by a Cuban immigrant family that's 3 generations deep. This is actually one of our favorite lunch spots in LA. So when we had the opportunity to bid on this project, we jumped at it, and we were so grateful we got to meet the Porto family and tell their story. So my question to you all is, what was powerful to you about this story? If anything stood out, I'd be curious.
Courage and faith, and I felt the same way about the other story, to be honest. There's a tremendous amount of courage and faith and family, but
Yeah, the courage to do something like that against the odds of coming to the country with nothing. Yeah, faith. Right, bringing community around, building other people up. Yeah.
Her journey, you see, I think her when she was young, and then she's older, an older mother. It looked like she was hugging her son's house. I could just feel the love maybe I resonated with that so much.
The familial.
And love helped create.
Yeah, her journey through love and her family and created a lot of what you saw in her story. Yeah, definitely. We felt that.
It probably wasn't your intention. The story of the immigrant, what's going on at our borders now, it's been so
anxiety producing, upsetting to me. That story just brings it back. There are lots of people who don't have a home, refugees there are in the world. You know, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it does bring up the reality of what's going on with immigrants all over the world and the hardship of refugees, definitely. Yeah. I think for me, what stood out just doing this film was one of the things they talked about, which was in a longer version that I didn't show, is that they really do their due diligence to make sure every person who walks through their bakery doors feels dignified. And one of the ways they do that in a practical way is by never changing their prices. So like a sandwich is $5 and it's a really good sandwich and it's big and it's decorated to feel. They went to Italy and studied bakeries and cafes, and it's designed, and they brought over marble. And so when you walk in the door, you see all walks of life, and everyone's treated with such respect, and you feel important just walking through there, and you feel like family because the Portos are constantly walking around and letting you try their new dishes. And we felt that just by meeting them. They invited us to their house and like, we're going to cook you a Cuban feast. And gosh, that's a perk of the job for sure. So I think, yeah, stories can connect us to strangers. I mean, you all named things that you were feeling and you were resonating with by watching this, and that's amazing. You've never met them, and here we are connecting with a generational story that is happening across the nation. So thanks for sharing. Going to transition a bit. This is just a blank slide, but yeah, I've had the privilege to sit down with hundreds of people for interviews, and it's by far one of the favorite things I get to do. And what I realize is that as I sit down, no matter what the client is, no matter what the mission of the video is, it typically boils down to one question. The more I talk to people, the more I realize what I'm getting at is why are you doing what you're doing? And what is it that you're after? What is it that you want? And so I want to actually look at a parable from Mark together and dig into that for a bit. So I don't know if anyone can read it, but I'm happy to have someone read it. Is that actually, should I read it? Because the people won't be able to hear it. I can read it. I'm just thinking about the folks at home. All right. So the healing of blind Bartimaeus. They came to Jericho. As he and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up, he is calling you." So throwing off his cloak, he sprang up, came to Jesus. Then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Then Jesus said, "Go, your faith has made you well." Immediately he regained his sight and followed him on the way. And if you go to the next slide, I just highlight this line: "What do you want me to do for you?" And that question, well, I'm gonna turn it to you first, and then I'll dive into kind of what I'm thinking. But the next slide is just asking, why do you think Jesus was asking Bartimaeus what he wanted? Yeah, giving him agency to speak what he was wanting. Definitely.
Jesus wants us to come to him. God wants us to believe him.
Yeah, Jesus wants us to come to him. Stay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Jesus did not assume what he wanted, even though many of us would look at someone and assume this is what they need. That is quite humbling. Yeah, so the question about desire in this is definitely the pivot point. And this is on a commentary I was reading, but this question penetrates to the very core of our being. It is very, very personal. It brings us face to face with our own humanness, our vulnerability, and our need. And such a question strips away the layers of pretense and superficiality to expose what the truest thing is about us. Nothing in our spiritual life originates with us. It all originates with God. And like I said, I see this a lot in my subjects who don't identify as Christian. I see that there's something deeply spiritual about what they are desiring, what they want, and I think God's all over that. Yeah, and so Bartimaeus had to be completely vulnerable in front of people who didn't want him to pipe up and divert Jesus in this crowd. And he reached deep within to touch that really fundamentally human place in him to share what he wanted and cry out. And I feel like when you push people enough and get deep enough into interviews and conversations, it can get emotional and it can get vulnerable, because those things that we deeply desire to be closer to God, closer to our spiritual livelihood is what stirs us and what makes us emotional. And that's why I think filmmaking can be so powerful. Just watching someone's story can remind us of something in our own story. So the next quote I had was from this really great book that I was reading about this story. And it says, Jesus himself routinely asked people questions that help them get in touch with their desire and name it in his presence. And it's funny, Jim, you mentioned this, but doesn't Jesus already know the answer? Can't he see that he's blind? But Jesus is doing something for Bartimaeus that no one had done in a very long time. He's listening to him. He's demonstrating that Bartimaeus is valued, worthy, accepted, and loved. And everyone has a story to tell, even Bartimaeus. Wow, what a gift. And we say that at Crossroads all the time. You are known, seen, loved, celebrated. And when you can, and let anyone know that, but especially a kid who comes through Crossroads who's never met Jesus, so much can come out of that, and things you wouldn't expect. And that's why I think filmmaking to me is also just a mystery. You go in, so many times I've had a preconceived notion of what this farmer that I'm going to interview is going to be like, what this doctor, what this dancer, you name it. I've been able to meet all kinds of people, and I'm constantly humbled that the stirrings of their heart, their deepest desires, where God is working, is not what you'd expect. And I think that's such a good practice for me, to be constantly humbled. So I'm going to be quiet again, and we're going to go back into our third and final screening for the day, and we'll chat after.
Where I grew up and like here, college isn't always like the common path. Like everybody's like not going to college. Growing up in this community, I want to be that example to show them that this life is possible, that there's no boundaries.
My parents have sacrificed a lot for me and my sisters. And I feel like if I mess up, I'm letting everybody down.
I've never been on the same page with my peers because I have a different background that they don't really understand.
I'll be starting like this new like chapter in my life, but I'll be leaving behind like my family back here. I don't want to like leave them to like fight on their own. It's still going to be a pretty big adjustment for me.
I still don't know what home really means. When my foster family was inconsistent, I still had those friends that were there even when I moved away. Like I found my family and my friends.
All right, perfect. Cheers.
I'm just gonna be excited because if I don't get excited, I'm gonna be scared. So I'm excited.
Just like stepping on that campus and like walking around, meeting new people.
It's not just all about the classes that you're going to be in. The country needs new ideas and people from different backgrounds to really bring these new ideas together.
Yeah, I know.
What's your name?
Hey, I'm next to you.
This is
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I feel like a lot of first generation college students get this idea stuck in their head that they are alone. And the truth is not. Like, there's a lot of other students that are going through the same thing. And it's just nice to know that even if you fall back, like, there's other people that are going to catch you.
Having friends and a dinner like this is like always, I can always do this, and it's just fun.
Families everywhere. Anyone can become a family, I think.
Going off to college, everyone.
Brego. Breaking bread with people changes things, doesn't it? What a powerful, story. What were some of the desires of these students that you might have noticed in this? Getting back to that kind of core question that we were asking them in this film, what is that you want as you head off to college?
Connection with people that they can be with.
Connection with the people that they're going to be with. Yeah. Dan.
Making their families proud.
Yeah, that was a big through line, and it was quite emotional, actually. Dan said making their families proud. I'll never forget. I really didn't like that. So when you're shooting a commercial, just to paint the picture, you have something called Video Village. And if you've ever walked by a film set, you've probably seen this, but they set up pop-up tents. And all the corporate clients and advertising agency people, there's at least 10. A lot of times they'll set up these directors' chairs, they open their laptops, they're drinking their cappuccinos, they have these big TV screens, and their TV screens are the live feed from my camera and David's camera as we're filming these students being vulnerable and eating a meal together and not having met them. And it really bothered me that these students were being watched, and it felt like the clients were trying to get something out of them, which at the end of the day, yes, they were paying for this commercial. But I think for David and I, that didn't matter to us. What mattered is that these students felt dignified, and it mattered that they really got to show up and not feel pressured to be something that they weren't, that they could really connect with their own heart. And we actually asked them to move and be out of sight. And what happened was we forgot that they were there. The students forgot that they were there in a good way, in a healthy way. We had communication if we needed to. And then at the end, some of the parents were there, and we found out that the parents were in tears because they could hear the kids with the microphones from afar, and the kids didn't know that their parents were watching them, and they just felt so proud and excited that their kids had this community. And that was a really powerful project. And yeah, I'm glad that those things resonated with you, and you're able to see some of those things. So yeah, any other thoughts on that as we, NFA?
What would this have looked like if somebody else had done it? You know what I mean? So
Mm.
you were able to say it was authentic.
Mm.
You know, so
Mm.
what it
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. What would it look like? You mean what would it look like if someone were filming me filming it, or what would it look like if I were sitting down at a table? Oh, if another director had done, yeah, right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I remember you get on a lot of calls with the clients ahead of commercials like this, and they're making sure the tablecloths, are the lights gonna be there? And then at one point they were talking about the diameter of the meatballs. And we are like, unsubscribe. We got to get out of here. Put on a happy face, but wow, we've gotten so far from these sweet kids who are pouring their lives out on camera, and let's not forget that. So in a way, I feel like part of my ministry, being a filmmaker in this world, being a filmmaker in the hustle of what commercial production looks like these days, is that we want to slow down and remind the clients that we are dealing with real people who are human and who are sharing their time and their homes and their food with us, and breaking bread with us. And that's what's really important. If you want to actually see an authentic capture of their lives, you have to slow down, and you have to listen, and you have to be curious, to build that trust. And I think Jesus has been such a great example for me to learn from, going to church and praying. And I'm still refining how I show up in these spaces, because it's such an intimate and privilege to step in. Rachel.
So I see so much good and but they're like ours, and you just right then and there, it's like, oh, like you can feel really captured how excited they were to start this thing. That was college, like they're the first ones. Their parents didn't tell them about it. Their peers didn't really tell them about it. They were doing something.
Yes.
And they were so excited, and you could just feel that in their smiles and their laughter. And I was like, those kids.
Yeah, you can feel that joy. Yeah, the anticipation.
Question.
Sure.
You have a job to do, someone has hired you, you have a job to do, you need to satisfy them because
Yes.
you're contracted to do this job.
Yes.
So, I guess my question is, how many times have you gotten in the midst of getting ready to sign that contract and said, I just, in my heart, soul, whatever, cannot represent this? I mean, have you lost jobs because should they say?
Yeah.
I've seen that could be a possibility. Right now, that table, they could have been focusing on all the plates in the table and not the people.
Yeah.
But they were making a statement at the end that it made a family. But I'm sure you've had to turn down jobs because you just couldn't represent them.
Yeah. So great question. Have we had to turn down jobs because of our own conscience and our faith, not feeling like we could do this ethically and morally? Yes. And one in particular, we actually had an agent at the time who put us out for jobs, and he would send us a lot of things that just were not up our alley. And it's a weird place to be when you're 24 and you're getting by month to month paying rent, and you need to make money, and your parents are like, how's business? You're like, great, like got a pitch for a new tequila ad, but we said no. Like I do drink, but that's so vapid. Like we can't do it. So that was one. But then the one I'm thinking about actually is, and big props. David is a researcher, and he can challenge me sometimes. And I think I maybe was more like, okay, it's a job. Like this would be great. And we were asked to do, and I can have a conversation if any of you work for this company, but we were supposed to do it. I won't name them, but we were supposed to do a job for a big pharmaceutical company that was making insulin, and they needed a treatment, aka a plan for how we're going to shoot this commercial the next day. And we had been kind of hemming and hawing, dragging our feet. We weren't super excited about it, and we knew we needed to get it together. And we told them, David actually was like, I don't think we can do this. Like I just researched this company, and they have increased insulin prices like 400%, and people cannot get the medication they need for diabetes. And I was like, wait, what? So then we told the agency, we're not going to pitch on this job. We actually told them why. And then they emailed back and were like, really? Oh my gosh, maybe we will consider our partnership with them. We're like, what? Why are we the gatekeepers of this? And our agent was really mad, and that was okay with us. It wasn't worth it to do something that was gonna, we don't want to be manipulative or support a company that seems to be doing unethical things. So, that was one example. Kara.
Back to this last video, it sort of resonated with me on Lindsay's sermon, how she talked about change, and the desire for change that these students had, and yet the fear and the longing for the familiar of home. So I thought that captured here. think all your videos really capture the emotions that we all feel, the range, of emotions, whether it's fear, or loneliness, or love, hope, and that's what we all feel.
Thank you. So Kara was just mentioning these kids were all going through massive change, and there's fear that comes with that. Like trying to capture the range of emotions. Thank you. Was there another? And Mary?
So often that there's commercials like gratuitous or something and it's corny.
Yes.
And they put something, it's supposed to be noble, but it didn't really, you know. And here, the end thing is food. It was selling food.
Yes.
But where it was taken was to a higher level. It's meaning to us. And so there was so much depth. It took us to a higher place. And so it makes me feel good about
Yeah.
That's something good is evolving too.
Yeah, you do see a lot of commercials that end and you're like, all right, yep, you're selling cereal, and here that ends and you're like, all right, you're selling pasta sauce, and that is hard, especially as someone who like deems himself as a documentary filmmaker or documentary commercial style filmmaker. I think I still wrestle with that. I mean, at the end of the day, you are selling a product that is not, directly funding these kids' college tuition, but yet that's the story we're kind of telling. So I do still wrestle with that. And I think I try to do my best to show up in that space to dignify and listen as best I can so that those students really do feel like their story is being told. Hey, maybe at the end of the day, it sold some pasta jars, but you also got to tell your story, and maybe it will touch someone who's never heard an immigrant story, who's never thought twice about being the first person in a family to go to college, and that could change someone, and if it's getting through to some people, then I think that's net positive. The next slide is just kind of a montage, but it just farmers we've interviewed on solar projects, an Amazon delivery driver, Lori and her daughter, a solar technician. There's Andrea from the Prego commercial, and there's a baker from Porto's. I mean, that's just a small sample of the types of people we've been able to interview. But I just feel privileged. I get to help people tell their stories. A lot of people have never told their story. I mean, even in our own families, we don't tell our stories because you just see it, but you often just see it from your own perspective. Have you ever asked someone to tell their story for them? Like that, the times I've heard that, I think I'm blown away, because you'll never hear it the same unless you hear it from the mouth of the person who it is. So yeah, I think whether your job is to make sure the solar panels are cranking out the right amount of wattage, or whether you're a farmer who just wants to provide a legacy for their family, I want to showcase the beauty in that. And I think being curious, back to my beginning, has led to questions and extended conversations that I could never script out. I can't make this stuff up. I just have to listen and I have to trust. And that's always where the magic happens. And that's always where I leave feeling like, wow, I have walked away truly experiencing, as Lindsay prayed at the beginning, the breadth, the length, the height, and the depth of Christ's love. And I'm truly on like a spiritual high after each shoot, because I feel so privileged to hear someone's story that I've never heard before. And every single one of you has a story that I've never heard before. And that is amazing. And like, there's endless stories to tell. So my job hopefully is safe to stay until the robots start doing it. So I want to shift. I know we're closing in on time, but I wanted to bring a curiosity practice into play. I'm specifically not calling this an interview practice, because I actually don't call my interviews. I call them conversations, because I think what I'm doing is not bullet pointing, making sure I'm getting all the questions. Yes, I have some backup questions when I go into a commercial, but I often say, hey, I want this to be a conversation. I want to listen, and we're going to play off what each other says, but I'm here to kind of draw this out for you. So just keep in mind, when we do this practice, you're typically the first audience for that person telling their story. And if they think you're the kind of audience that is sympathetic and is going to try to understand, they're much more likely to open up. And that is definitely that's a quote from a documentarian, Brian Hill. So that is my challenge to you. Here are some quick ground rules for what I want this to look like. Try to pair up with someone in this room that you don't know that well. ABC is a tight-knit community, so I'm sure you know most of each other, but try to stretch. Agree on a subject you'd like to learn more about from one person, from the other. This could be anywhere to, like, what do you do for your job? I'd try to challenge you a little bit more than that, because I think we have passions beyond our own vocations, but vocations are certainly what stirs a lot of us. That's what we spend a lot of our time doing. So yeah, I'll try to give us some time and say switch, but I'm going to have the one person go for a bit and then we'll switch the other person, but really follow the stirrings of your curiosity. I want this to be a good practice, and ask follow-up questions. Why is always something that I come back to. It's never a bad question. So, and I do acknowledge that the magic of what happens a lot of times when I get to sit down with people is that it's an hour or more. So this is a very small time, and I don't expect, it's going to feel exactly the same, but I would love to just get a taste, and this just be an opportunity for you all to get to know each other's stories a little bit. So go for it. All right, time to switch. Switch it up. All right, let's bring it back in to close us out. This is so fun. I don't want to stop these conversations. Wow. Nothing made me happier than just watching you guys talk to each other. I'm very curious just to have some follow-up questions for a couple minutes. I know we need to go soon, but what did you guys feel like you learned about yourself in this practice? Cindy? Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to ask people questions than to know how to tell your own story. Yeah, for sure. It's great.
One story to tell. Person two, you think you know that person well, and then something comes out.
Yeah.
All these years.
Yeah, there's more than one story to tell. Yeah, definitely. Did anyone find anything challenging doing this practice? Yeah? What? It's hard to think about what your passion is. Yes. What's one thing? Yeah. And maybe there's not one thing. I don't know. I don't have one thing, that's for sure. Mary?
Well, it was coming up with such amazing questions.
Hey, we're gonna have to get those questions.
So I was like nonplussed a little, and what am I gonna come up with? But I did.
And sometimes it's great. You can mirror those questions right back if they're super compelling. So I'll take some from you for my clients. And Marina. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Asking those questions that aren't just yes or no, the open-ended questions, definitely. Davida.
Sort of, it makes you feel very affirmed.
Mm.
You used the term before, seen.
Yeah.
It was very nice to have someone look at you and really clear what the answers are, and not just be thinking of the next question.
Yes.
While you're answering.
It's really great to have someone looking at you, feeling seen, feeling affirmed, and not just going to the next question and not just thinking, okay, what's the next thing I'm going to ask? Like, I really see you. I really hear you.
Why conversation is better than
Yeah, well, there you go. Right back. Conversation is better than interview. I agree. Where did you see God in this? Anyone have anything that struck you? Something you heard, something that was stirring, something that's stuck out?
I think just in the connection again, that seems to be my word today.
Yeah.
Things that you relate to exactly, same feeling, that's being expressed was one that you had or something, and things that had never occurred to you, right? It's sort of an exposure that says, here's an awareness that would not have occurred to you out of your own experience, but listening to their story.
Yes.
There it is.
Yeah. Hearing things that you may not expect that stir something in you. Yeah. Dan. Oh. Stephen, we haven't heard from you. Been waiting all day.
church is a place of storytelling, story sharing, and that is where God is, and that this happens so much. I mean, being intentional about it this morning, I'm like, we should just do that.
I'd be for that.
It's like, it's just, for me, this is where God is. How amazing it is. What an incredible morning for all of us to sit here and hear each other's stories a little bit more.
Yeah.
That, the Holy Spirit is a part of this time. I just, being just sitting in here and hearing all the voices,
So Stephen experienced God just in this practice, just hearing the voices, knowing that we're telling each other our stories, and that is so important. Yeah. I feel like there was another hand, maybe not. Okay. Well, we are at time, but I just want to thank you all for listening to my own story and holding space for this kind of class and supporting it, because what a joy it is to be able to not only have to reflect on what my faith, how my faith plays into my own vocation, but how I continue to try to bring that with me when I go to each of these productions. So if any of you have any questions, I'll be hanging out for a little bit. But thank you again, and let me pray us out. God, you're the ultimate storyteller. Thank you for bringing your son Jesus to us to share those stories. Thank you for challenging our assumptions of the world. Thank you for listening to us, for being curious about us, for sitting down with us and giving us a model to do that right here, right now. Thank you for this time and space, for this community to show up today and partake in your greater story. In your name we pray. Amen. So let me just tell you, next week, for those of you who can be here, we're going to have Marissa Karras, who is a friend of Amanda Bliss, and she is teaching on drawing and painting. It's going to be great.